Hello and welcome back to 5-Minute Photoshop. Now, we're going to learn about selecting. And selecting is the fine motor skill of Photoshop. This is a critical skill. And if you think about a sculptor or a painter, they kind of need their fine motor skills too. They need to be in tune with the whole thing. So I'm going to show you up here, near the top of the toolbar, we have the selection tools. So they are kind of prominent, aren't they? Right? They're kind of front and center up here. Rectangular and elliptical marquee, the various lassos, quick select, and magic wand. Now, these things do different things, but they're kind of more or less in the same category of doing a bunch of stuff quickly. Now, I want to look at a couple of little basic things about this that are common to them all. So, if I select with the rectangular marquee, I see the classic line of marching ants around him, and there he is. And if I want to select more at this point, if I go down here to select more, what will happen is it'll deselect the top part of him. So here's a twofold approach to solving that problem. So if I hold down and select, and then I want to select more, if I hold down the Shift key on the keyboard, so that is what I'm doing now, and I start to drag, I'm multiplying my selection. This is true in a lot of programs, by the way. It just happens to be true here too. And again, continuing to hold down Shift, and I'm grabbing more and more area, right? Now, if I want another approach to it, because let's say that I basically want it most of the time to start a fresh selection every time I approach it, but just in the moment I need to get more things. That's the approach, Shift Select. But let me show you, and by the way, this is Control D as in dog to deselect. That's actually kind of important too. So here's the other thing. Follow me up here to the upper left-hand side. Now, these are the modifications that are possible for whatever tool you have selected, right? So right at the moment, here we have new selection. That is default to making a new selection. This is like holding down Shift all the time, right? If I click Add to Selection, that's now my positive setting. I'm not holding down Shift, I'm just selecting and selecting and selecting, okay? Now, there's another thing, which is if you need to take away from a selection, there's a short-term and a long-term approach to that as well. So if I hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and I drag through my selection, I'm now taking away from it. And one more thing, you'll notice when I hold down the Alt key, it goes from plus to minus. You have to be looking pretty close to see it, but there it is. All right, so let me now, if instead you wanted the assumption to be, let's keep removing from the selection, that's kind of a weird choice. You are unlikely to make that. But if you wanted that to be the assumed setting for at least a few minutes, that's where you would go. You would just click that button. For the time being, I'm going to leave it on Add to Selection because that tends to be useful for what I'm about to do. All right? So let me deselect this to begin with. And I'll tell you what, let's see, we're approaching 4 minutes, so let me do one more little thing with Homer here. Now, if I select with rectangular, I can also switch tools in midstream and get elliptical, right? And start drawing ellipses sticking out the side of everything around here. So these tools are happy to marry up and work together, and that's essential. They really wouldn't be any good without that. All right, I'm going to pull the plug on this one, and we'll be right back with much more detail.